this is Julie with Beadaholique, and in this video I am very excited to teach you how to braid Kumihimo using chain. This has been on my to-do list at least 3 years now, probably 4, and I finally figured out how to do it. So here is the finished piece, and you see that this is a Kumihimo braid, and we use some Rolo chain, size 2mm, and I'm going to teach you how to do that. And up here we finished the ends with some wire wrapping, and then we just used some more Rolo chain and connected it to a Lobster clasp. So again, that's a finished piece. I'm going to show you how to do it. So what you're going to need, you're going to need chain. I am using Rolo chain, size 2mm in 2 different colors, and I'm going to use the black one here because I thought it would be really easy to see in the video. You're going to need 8 feet of 2 different colors. Of course, if you want it all to be the same color, you'll just need 16 feet total. You're going to need some wire. I'm using artistic wire, and I'm using 24 gauge. Then to finish it off, I've just got this little Lobster clasp and 2 size 4mm open jump rings. So those are your supplies. Now in terms of tools, you're gonna need a ruler, you're gonna need a Kumihimo disc, as well as a Kumi weight. You're gonna need 2 pairs of chain nose pliers to open those jump rings, a pair of round nose pliers, or like I like to use wire looping pliers to make my loops, and a pair of cutters. And I want to show you, so this started off the same amount of chain as you see here. So in a second we're going to cut these into 2-foot increments, but I want to show you how long I was able to achieve my braid. So about 11 inches of Kumi braid when you start with 16 feet of chain broken out down into 8 segments that are 2 feet long each. If that sounds a little bit confusing, just wait. We're going to go step by step, and it's not going to be confusing in just a few minutes. So let's begin. So we're going to start by cutting our chain into 2-foot segments, which is 24 inches, and I have a 15-inch ruler right here. So I'm going to do 15 inches and another 9, which will give me 24 or 2 feet, and cut it. You can do longer if you like. Just make sure that your segments are the same length each. If your chain kind of kinks up on you, just kind of work it out. And a little kink here or there is not a big deal because it's going to be moving as you are doing your weaving, and those kinks will come out. Okay. All right, so I'm down to my last length, and even though it should just be 2 feet because I've cut 6 feet already, just double check. It'd be really a bummer if you did this whole project and you ended up with one chain that was too short. So we're fine. So now we're gonna go ahead and connect all these guys together to begin with. That's really the key. So I wanna show you something that I made literally 3 years ago plus. This was a Kumihimo braid with chain, and I think we don't even carry this chain anymore. I think it's been discontinued by the manufacturer. But I had no idea how to start or finish this, so I just wrapped wire around it, and it's been sitting on my desk for years. Because you don't want to finish your braid, which looks lovely, and then be like, well, what do you do with all this? How do you finish it? So you actually start by finishing your end, or almost finishing your end, I should say. And to do that, you're going to grab some wire, and you want 9-10 inches of wire. And we're going to place our chain via the end chain link onto the wire. And you're going to go ahead and do 2 of one color, so 2 golds. And then we're going to do 2 of whatever your alternating color is. So we're going to do 2 blacks. And then 2 golds. And then your remaining 2 black. This is what we've got. Slide them down so that you have a couple inches protruding out this end, and then bring them together and crisscross your chains. as tight as you can so that there's a nice little loop in there. And then take the short tail and wrap it around the long tail. And make a couple nice wraps. Okay, and then trim your tail. And if that's a little pokey edge, don't worry about it too much. We're going to be able to trim this up later. You can always go in and use a chain nose plier to help with it. All right, so this is what we've got. All our chains are connected with a nice long wire sticking out the end. So now we're going to take our Kumihimo disc and we're going to put that wire through the center. And now we are going to start lining these up on the disc. So if you're not familiar with how to use a Kumihimo disc or even have seen one before, you'll notice it's got these numbers around the edge and it's got 4 dots. So you want the 32 dot to be at the top and the 16 dot to be closest to you. And then in order to create a spiral pattern with Kumihimo, whether you're doing chain or textile, you are going to put one color at the 8 and then that same color across at the 24. So because I know that's what I'm doing, that means the black is going to be up top here and the other black is going to be closest to me, and the gold. And you see, because we put these on alternating, they're exactly where we want them to be. So now just make sure that that's little loop is in the center. Okay, and we're just poking these into the disc a little bit. It's really a thick disc. It's not really possible to yank those all the way in, but you just want them anchored. And you want the center. There we go. And then these guys up here. Now, if you're familiar with Kumihimo, you're probably wondering where are the bobbins. You can do bobbins if you want. They're little plastic like clamshells that help to secure this. I found with this length of chain, it was super easy to do it without bobbins. If you have longer chain, you might want to consider bobbins, but I was okay with that. So I'm going to go ahead and now take my Kumi weight, and where I'm going to grasp it is just on the wire right up towards my wrappings. And if it pulls off of there, you can actually grab your wire wrappings. You just want it to be stuck on there. This is going to be a little harder with me sitting down, so I'm actually going to go ahead and stand up really quickly. So you might hear my squeaky chair, because I need to be standing doing this so these can hang. All right, so now we are going to begin our braiding. And it's the same technique now as what you've done before if you're familiar with Kumihimo. So you're going to take the one that's to the left of the 16 dot, and you're going to bring it up to the left side of your 2 strands up here and just anchor it in that little notch. And now you're going to take the right one and bring it down to the right. So left up to left, right down to right, and then you're going to rotate counterclockwise. And we're going to do the exact same thing. So the one that's to the left of the 24 dot is going to go up to the left of the 2 strands that you already have here, and the right one's going to go down. And then rotate. And that is all there is to it. Now, one tip I did want to share with you when you are doing chain is you can go like this and just go like that. Don't just yank it like that. Kind of let it be loose for a second, and then just nicely pull it over and put it in its notch. And it's tight, but I'm not like super pulling it. Hope that makes sense. It'll make a little more sense as you get more of your weaving. So yeah, I'm just kind of letting it be loose in there for a minute and then letting it pull over the other strands and then rotating it. So, kind of almost feels like what you do when you have beaded Kumihimo, how you let your bead drop in there, is you're just kind of letting that flow a little bit more gently than if you were just doing straight Kumi without beads or with just a plain strand of fiber. So I'm going to do a little bit here on camera just so you can start to really see this braid develop. Now, if you ever are gonna pause with your kumi, say you gotta go make dinner or you gotta go out, whatever, always end with 3 strands up top, because I could put this down and I could come back to it and I would know, oh, those 3 strands are up top, so I must just need to take my right strand and bring it down. Whereas if I left it just like this, it might be a little challenging to figure out where you left off and where you needed to rotate. Okay, so I'm gonna see if I've got any of the pattern developing yet. Okay, not quite. So I'm gonna do a little bit more here on camera because I really wanna have it so you can see that spiral before I go off camera and do the main length of it and then come back on camera to show you how to finish it. And at the end, I'm also gonna share a tip on another way of finishing the ends if you don't want that wire wrap look. It's the same technique. Left up, right down, rotate. Left up, right down, rotate. Okay, let's see if I'm getting my spiral. There we go. So you're seeing how it's spiraling. So we've got that nice gold going up here with the black in between. So I'm just gonna keep doing this, same exact technique, until I get to a point where I just have a little bit of the chain left. At that point, I'm gonna stop and then tie it off. So go ahead, if you're following along with me, and go ahead and do that, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to finish it off, and then also how to turn it, your piece of Kumihimo, into a wearable necklace. This is where we're at now. So we got a nice length of the braid, and I stopped with my 3 up top. I'll do a couple more on camera here. This is probably what you've been doing at home if you're watching, but I want to show you about when we get to the end here. So see how much we have. I don't want to go too much more than that because otherwise it might pull out. But look at what's interesting, and I find this happens every time I do chain Kumihimo. I end up with different lengths. And I think it's just a tension issue. I think some times I just pull a little bit tighter and other times I don't. It happened with this one as well. So that's just kind of an interesting note, is even though you started with the exact same lengths of chain, you might end up with different lengths. So I'm gonna take my weight off at this point, and now we need to finish this. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take another length of wire, and we are gonna do some threading. So I'm gonna start right here, and I'm just gonna go through 1 chain link. And then I'm gonna go through another chain link that's about at the same orientation. So I'm just going across. So now I've got 2 chain links anchored on there. Now I'm gonna take, actually, you know what I want to do? I want to finish this because I know I'm stopping. I want to go ahead and I just want to pull that down. So I finish that step. Okay. So now I'm going to take my wire and thread it through another chain link. So now I've got 3 on there. This can get a little tricky, just because our wire gauge is 24 gauge, so it's pretty flexible, but it's still, you know, it's still a stiff wire. It's not like a piece of thread. What you can even do is take your chain nose plier, kind of help it go through, and then pull it. You want to get as close to your braid as possible when you're doing this part. Like, I think I'd rather go through, if you can see it, if I can point it out, this chain link instead of this top one. So I'm going to pull my wire out and see if I can get even closer. That could be the same one I just went through. Well, we're gonna call it good. You got enough length here, so if you want to, you can always trim. If it gets a little kinky, you can always trim your tail. Okay. And we just got 2 more. There's 1. And there's 2. Okay, so this is one of the most important steps of this whole process. That old adage, measure twice, cut once, kind of the similar thing here. Double check that you went through every single chain. So there should be 8 little loops. So we've got the 2 black ones there. We are definitely through this gold one. We're through that gold one. We're through those 2 blacks, and we are through those 2 golds. Pull your wire so that you have a good maybe 3 inches on one end, 3-4 inches. So you don't want this to slip off because we're not going to create our wrapped loop just yet. So now we need to actually cut our chain. So you don't want to cut the loop that's anchored to the wire, of course. You want to cut one above it. Again, go very slow and make sure you're cutting the right length. Now that you've got them all on there, do the same thing you did when you started your project. Go ahead, cross your wires as tight as you can, and then wrap the shorter end. At this point, my ends are pretty equal, but wrap the shorter end around a couple times, and you can trim it. This, my friends, is what we've got thus far. And here we see that spiral. And you also notice there's a little bit of, inconsistency because it's a little harder to do chain kumi than regular kumi. So if you want to try to smooth it all out so it's a little more even, wiggle it. It's not going to come undone on you. That will just help kind of spread out the chain a little bit, I guess you could say, because its chain can get kind of stiff in places. And if you just wiggle it a little bit, it's going to make it look more uniform. Okay, there we go. And I do want to take a look at something real quick. So I got about 10 inches instead of 11 inches out of this one. And it's really just a tension situation. So 2 feet equaled about 10 inches in this case. And in this case, it equaled 11 inches. So if you're planning that you really want your focal part to be an exact length, buy extra chain and just have a little bit left over. And speaking of leftover chain, it is this leftover chain that for this project we are going to use to finish our necklace. So if we bring the ruler, so we got 10 inches here. Let's say I wanted to make an 18-inch necklace. The clasp will add about ½ an inch or so. And I could choose if I want it to be black or if I want it to be gold. I think I'm going to go gold. So if this is 10 inches, I want 18 inches. I'll do 4 inches on each side. Okay, so those are ready to go. Now the black ones ended up a little longer, which was, again, interesting, but it happens. So there are longer bits. We could have made it longer. You can also just purchase the amount of chain length you want. Like say you want this to be a 36-inch necklace with this as a focal. You'll just purchase a couple extra feet of chain. Now the way I finished this one here was with wrapped wire loops, and I'm going to do the exact same thing on this one, but I do want to show you another option, and that would be these guys. So these are cord ends. So, and they have a little hole at the top. So there's a couple different sizes here. We have a 10, an 8, and a 6. And that number relates to the interior of the well. And I think looking at this, it's going to be the 8s that would work. So if you want to finish it with one of these, you would just put your wire through it and slip it over the top of your chain. And then you'd create a wrapped wire loop on the outside. But I really like it that I don't have to necessarily use a cord end with this chain kumi. Every other type of kumi you do. So I'm going to go ahead and finish it with my wrapped wire loops. To do that, I'm going to take my wire looping pliers, and right above all my other wrappings, I'm going to squeeze. That makes half a loop for me. Pull it around, rotate my pliers up to the top to finish my loop. And now before I actually do my wrappings, I'm going to slip the end chain link of one of my cut pieces of chain into here. Okay, let that slide in. So that is very nicely anchored. And now taking my chain nose pliers, I'm going to hold that loop with the chain up top, and I'm going to just create some wraps. And I think with this particular design, it would look very nice to have both neat wraps as well as messy wraps. If you're a fan of that bird's nest style of wrapping, I think that would look actually really pretty on this too. You could do as many or as few as you want. You just want to make sure it's nice and secure. Trim it. Tuck your tail in so it doesn't scratch you. And that side is done, and we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. And this is a super long wire. I'm just going to cut a little bit off. And my other length of chain. Let's see. Got one of those chain bits on there. There we go. Okay, holding it, and my wrappings. Okay, we are almost done. So now we just need to add the clasp. So I'm going to do this little lobster and the jump rings. So we're going to go to the top part of our necklace, and we're going to go ahead and open a jump ring. Just going to grab both sides of it with our pliers and twist, and I'll just attach it to the end chain link here, and I will twist it back shut. And that's going to be the jump ring that the lobster clasp will actually hook onto. And then for this one, we're just going to put this on the end. And our lobster. Close it back up. Secure our necklace. And we are done. And I'm going to pull the other one out for you to look at too. Then you can see. All right, so we've got the silver and gold. And then we've got the black and gold. So very different looks. I think the chain though really pops here in this one, and you have a little bit more contrast. And then of course here, this is a little bit more blendy, but it's a really pretty mixed metal look. And there's, of course, chains are available in all different finishes. You can do antique brass, you can do antique silver, you can do whatever color you really want. And then different styles of chain will work the same way. Just be cautious if you have a chain that has different size links within it. So if it's got like little short links combined with long links, you're gonna have a hard time getting a really nice uniform look to your braid. But if it's a chain like the Rolo chain, where every link is the same, it's gonna be pretty easy to do this exact method. So I hope you enjoyed this Kumihimo technique video and this project. And then we do on the Beadaholique website have a ton more videos and projects showing you different ways of doing Kumihimo. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, everyone.